Play baseball back in my older days in college. A big shout out to the University of Louisiana at Monroe, the Warhawk baseball team, Warhawk Atmospheric Science Department. I wouldn't be here without them, as well as my graduate education at Texas Tech. So go Red Raiders there. But you can see Ross making this scan here. And we've got several hundred of these. Now this technology has emerged to different research groups across the country and the world. Great work going on at University of Queensland in Australia. They've developed some image processing ways to do this with a cell phone camera system, which is amazing. The doors to new science that just simply bringing this technology to bear on hail has been nothing short of amazing.
Yeah, and it puts me in the mind of even the podcast episode that we did with Dr. Julian Bremelo with the Northern Hail Project. The emphasis of hail research, I feel like we talked about a resurgence during that podcast, but it certainly does seem to ring true.
It feels right that we've finally had kind of a renaissance in hail. One, technology's caught up. We have things like our distrometers, the crushers that Brenna talked about, Ross and scanning. Hail kind of mired in a bit of obscurity from basically the 80s all the way to the 2010s. But there's a great group of younger scientists that have taken the ball and run with it. I feel like we've helped lead the way, and I got to give a shout out to my wife Tanya, who really was the architect of this research program that we've been talking about today, our IBHS program. But it's been amazing to watch, and I'm hoping this all culminates in a multi-agency field campaign that will be the largest to ever study hailstorms in fine detail. So it's been since the late 70s since we had a dedicated multi-group field project. So I think it's about time, with all that damage we see year after year, we got to do something about this.
Amen to that. So where are we now in the process here with the 3D scanning?
So I had to check it out to make sure I didn't have any holes, and now that that's fell off, I hope I have it all, because I'd have to start over.
So you see Ross processing the data here. He actually can extract that fixture that has the positioning targets. Those are infrared positioning targets, so the laser knows where it is relative to that fixture and can make all those detailed measurements. But man, look at how detailed you get of a model.
And so usually I try to scan until I get no holes visible, but I do have another way to patch that, and it basically auto surfaces the stone. So that's what we would do at this point. But in the field, we would just continue scanning and then post-process after.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a look at 3D scanning. Again, one of my favorite parts of our research program, only because it really did open up new doors to science. And another shout out to Dr. Matt Cumgen at Penn State, one of our research collaborators. Matt called it kind of a watershed moment. I never thought of it in that kind of big detail, but it really has. It's created doors that didn't exist prior to us pioneering. Really, I want to say Ross helping pioneer this technology and its application to hail.
Anything else for Ross?
If you want to see how we would fix that, ideally we would have gotten more. I didn't place that on there very well, but we throw it in a software called Geomagic Studio, and
that's also how we create the STL files for printing as well.
Delete that out, but and then the software just basically fills your holes.
Yep. So mathematically, we can let the software do its thing, fill the gaps in the scan that still helps preserve that shape of the hailstone. One, to help accelerate how fast you can do it. But if you're scanning a record, Ross, you're pretty meticulous about the records.
Yeah, the records, I don't stop till I get everything I can out of it. Sometimes there's crevices that are hard to get to, but you just got to do the best you can with it.
Yep. All right. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, Ross. So let's come back over here as we prepare to wrap up. It has been a pretty cool journey. There is a question that we have here. It's from Christopher from our chat. How can researchers better understand what type of hail just fell?
That is a wonderful question. So there's a couple ways we've looked at this. There's one, the shape. We can diagnose things like axis ratio, so the ratio of the biggest dimension to the minimum. We can do the work like Brenna, crushing stones. We can look at how the environment that a storm is embedded in produces stones that might be harder or softer. We've actually seen those relationships. We've had some great students here at IBHS in our internship program that's done that work. So there's a couple different ways we can look at, are we seeing different shapes, like kind of base shapes from a given environment? Are we seeing different hailstone strengths, which we do? That's kind of the biggest avenue, kind of the next open door, right? Is trying to find what about those environments? What are the real big controls on hailstone strength? Because that starts you to get into better damage prediction, starting to understand all those changes.
One last question before we wrap up here. Why does the compressed air make it possible for the scanner to register the hailstone? That's from Emily.
Oh, that's a great question. So Ross uses the compressed